Jake Harrison had built his life on precision. At 33, he was the CEO and owner of Harrison Tech, a San Francisco-based technology company he inherited at 28 after his father's sudden passing. What had once been a respected but modest firm became, under Jake's relentless discipline, a billion-dollar force in artificial intelligence and cloud systems. Investors admired him. Business magazines called him visionary. Employees described him as demanding but fair, but no one described him as happy. 3 years earlier, his fiancée had packed her things and left their high-rise apartment overlooking the bay. She hadn't shouted, she hadn't accused. She had simply said, "You're married to your company, Jake. There's no room for me." She was right. Since then, Jake had given everything to work. 18-hour days, strategic dinners, global flights, sleepless nights. Success expanded. His world contracted. It was a cold December evening in San Francisco, the kind where the air feels sharp and the city lights shimmer against damp pavement. Jake had left the office later than usual. Instead of calling for his driver, he decided to walk. He told himself it was for exercise. In truth, he didn't want to go home to silence. As he passed a row of small storefronts preparing to close, he heard it, a soft, broken sound. Crying. Not the distant echo of city noise, but the trembling sob of a child. Jake stopped. He followed the sound to a recessed doorway between a laundromat and a convenience store. There, standing alone under the flickering light, was a little girl, 4, maybe 5 years old. She wore a thin sweater, leggings, and sneakers too small for the cold. Her blonde hair was slightly tangled, her cheeks flushed with tears. Jake approached slowly, kneeling to her level. "Hey," he said gently. "Did something happen?" The little girl sniffed, rubbing her eyes with the back of her hand. "I can't find my mommy." His chest tightened. "What's your name?" "Lily." "Well, Lily," he said softly, offering a reassuring smile. "Don't be scared. We'll find her together." She hesitated, then placed her tiny hand into his. The gesture felt heavier than any contract he had ever signed. Before continuing, take a moment to like and subscribe for more kindness stories and leave a comment to help me to improve my work. Let's continue. They walked slowly down the block. Jake scanned every corner, every bus stop, every shadow. Lily stayed close, her small fingers gripping his hand tightly. Then he saw her. A young woman, about 26, was rushing frantically from one storefront to another. She had dark blonde hair pulled into a loose ponytail, strands falling free around a pale, exhausted face. She wore a simple coat, jeans, and worn boots. Her eyes were wild with fear. "Lily," she cried when she saw them. She ran forward and fell to her knees, pulling her daughter into her arms, as if afraid she might disappear again. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, over and over, kissing Lily's hair. Then she looked up at Jake, cautious but grateful. "Thank you," she said, her voice shaking. I just turned around for a second at work, and she was gone. I've been searching everywhere." "It's okay," Jake replied. "Anyone would have done the same." But as he looked at her, he knew that wasn't entirely true. Not everyone stops. Not everyone notices. She opened her mouth to say more, but suddenly her expression changed. The color drained from her face. She swayed. Jake barely caught her before she hit the pavement. He called 911 immediately. Lily clung to him as paramedics arrived. When they lifted her mother, Monica, as Jake soon learned, into the ambulance, Lily looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. "Please come," she whispered, and Jake did. At the hospital, the doctor explained that Monica had suffered from extreme stress and physical weakness. She was dehydrated, exhausted, likely overworked. "She'll be fine," the doctor assured him, "but she needs rest." Jake sat beside Lily in the waiting area. She leaned against him, half asleep, trusting him without question. No investor had ever looked at him that way. When Monica regained consciousness hours later, relief filled her eyes at the sight of her daughter. "You don't have to stay," she told Jake weakly. "You've already done too much." "I haven't done much at all," he replied quietly. "Let me at least get you home." She hesitated, but exhaustion won. Jake called a taxi. Their apartment was in a modest building in a lower-income neighborhood. The hallway smelled faintly of detergent and old carpet. Inside, the space was small but clean, secondhand furniture, a narrow kitchen, children's drawings taped to the refrigerator. Jake noticed the details: unpaid bills stacked neatly on a table, a laptop with a cracked corner, Lily's tiny backpack. Monica thanked him again, apologizing for the inconvenience. It wasn't an inconvenience, Jake said, and for once in his life he meant it. Jake found himself thinking about them, about the thin sweater in winter, about Monica's trembling hands, about Lily's unquestioning trust. He visited, at first under the excuse of checking on Monica's health, then to bring groceries, then to fix a leaking faucet, then simply to talk. He learned Monica worked long shifts at a retail store while trying to take online courses at night. She wanted a better future for Lily. She refused charity, but she accepted kindness. And slowly, something unfamiliar grew in Jake. Not ambition, not competition, but connection. Lily began waiting for him by the window on evenings he visited. Monica's guarded gratitude softened into conversation and laughter. Jake realized that in all his success, he had built towers of glass, but no home, until now. Jake stood in the boardroom of Harrison Tech and proposed a new initiative: scholarships and flexible employment opportunities for single parents pursuing education. Some executives questioned the profitability. Jake surprised himself when he answered calmly, "Not everything valuable shows up on a quarterly report." For the first time, his company reflected more than his ambition. It reflected his humanity. One spring afternoon, Jake returned to the small apartment with flowers, not extravagant, just simple daisies. Monica opened the door. "You don't have to keep saving us," she said softly. "I'm not trying to save you," Jake replied. He looked at Lily playing on the floor. "You saved me." Monica's eyes shimmered, not with desperation this time, but hope. Love didn't arrive like lightning. It grew quietly, through shared dinners, homework help, hospital follow-ups, laughter in small kitchens. Jake had once believed success was measured in billions. Now he measured it in moments. A child's hand in his, a tired mother's relieved smile, a home filled with warmth instead of silence. He had spent years building a technological empire, but on a cold December night, guided by the sound of a crying child, he had found something far greater: compassion, kindness, humanity, and love. A new family and a purpose to have a happy life.